Jones. They were our last undefeated team in the tournament at 8-0. They're actually on a 2-match losing streak here. Bumped them down not very far. I believe this is table 3 of the tournament.
You know, the nice thing about starting off undefeated, you tend to have a couple losses to give.
Absolutely. See those Bantam Ramp players, that was Donegan and Jones closest, but we are going to look at some legacy. Noah Walker winning the die roll, and as much as anything in this matchup, going first is going to be a big part of Noah's strategy.
Right, being able to, say, develop a threat like Delver of Secrets, and then days before Bonin is able to start developing his mana is just so huge.
Noah starts on Preordain. Well, I think that's one of the things when you look at Ren and 6 and how it's changed legacy, is that when Brad's on the play, Noah can't even make a turn 1 Delver of Secrets unless he has days in his hand.
Right.
Because there's this issue that Brad would just say, Ren and 6, deal 1, go. And if that stands, it's so powerful.
Yeah, exactly. You end up in spots where this Delver doesn't get that extra upkeep to transform and actually get a second point of toughness before this Ren and 6 can try to shoot it down.
Wasteland from Brad keeps both players at no lands.
Oh.
Did Noah pass back?
That was a pass back.
What a read on Brad's part.
Wow. And this is what you want to do with Wasteland so frequently in decks and Legacy, is you want to fire it off sooner rather than later if it's not against like a Dark Depths deck, because if you let this Tropical Island stay in play for multiple turns, then Noah gets the chance to play some cantrips like Brainstorm, Ponder, and so on to try and find other lands.
I'm actually shocked on that play. So Brad's deck, now on the surface, this doesn't look like it was that big of a decision for Brad, but Brad's deck is a 2 Wasteland deck. And when you look historically in Legacy, there's 4 Wasteland decks and 2 Wasteland decks. So 4 Wasteland decks, Temur Delver, 4-color Delver has always been that. But when you look at decks that play 2 Wastelands, we're looking at decks like Shardless Sultai from a while ago. These are decks that actually want to power out to 4-mana cards like Jace the Mind Sculptor, 3-mana cards like Kolaghan's Command. They play Wastelands to deal with utility. You know, things like, I want to kill your Dark Depths.
Right.
Usually, these are not decks that use Wasteland to try to knock their opponents off mana.
So the thing here to note is that Noah Walker is sort of an archetype specialist. He knows, or Brad knows that Noah is going to be on some sort of Delver strategy. So if there's not a threat on the battlefield, then Wasteland is just resetting the game to ground zero, so to speak, which he's okay with. Just reducing both players' resources is good for him because he has more sources of card advantage.
Yeah, specifically because Noah didn't make a threat.
Exactly.
Now, Noah, after a few turns, has found a land. It's a copy of Flooded Strand, but he is far behind. We see Brad 3 basic lands in play. Those are Wasteland proof. And thanks to this snow archetype, the Arcum's Astrolabe, not only does he get to have 3 basic lands, but he also gets to have all 4 colors of mana, and now 2 Baleful Strixes, which is an uphill battle, to say the least, for Noah.
Are you excited to see Snow-Covered Island, Snow-Covered Island, Snow-Covered Swamp, Ren and 6?
Yeah. Well, that just feels so unfair, right? That he gets to have 3 lands, can make 4 colors, and by the way, they are all basic.
It is absolutely preposterous.
Yeah. There's just no way to attack this mana.
No, this is something where Walker is generally going to be leaning on mana advantages of some sort. All of his cards are kind of weak, but operate under the impression that they're going to win on the back of mana efficiency. But when you see Bonin just get this far ahead on mana, it's going to be tough for Walker to stay in this game.
A Brainstorm from Noah. He's trying to dig his way out from under this mana denial. Ren and 6, the play from Noah, and that actually does stick.
Okay, so this is a way to actually get back in the game here, because he's going to be able to rebuy these lands from his graveyard and hopefully catch up.
Yeah, he's actually able to remove 1 and maybe 2 Baleful Strix. That's certainly a card that his deck will have to make its way through. Plague Engineer from Bonin. Now, Noah has 3 copies of Force of Will in the main. In his hand, actually. Sorry, in his hand, not in the main. He has 4 in the main, but he has 3 in his hand. Force Pitching Force. It's not the kind of card you actually always want in this matchup.
Yeah, you just kind of feel priced into pulling the trigger on it whenever you're going to see one of these card advantage engines come down that might actually lock you out of the game.
So why is Noah's forcing on the Plague Engineer and Brad is actually forcing back? So my question here is, why is this such a big fight over Plague Engineer?
So the thing is that Bonin is just trying to answer specific angles of attack from Walker, and what Plague Engineer does is likely name Merfolk in order to preemptively check the card True Name Nemesis.
Okay, yeah, that's a Merfolk Rogue.
The other option is he could name Wizard, which would hit both Delver of Secrets as well as Dreadhorde Arcanist.
Right.
And even though it doesn't kill Dreadhorde Arcanist, it does basically shut off its triggered ability.
He names Wizard, so I think you're absolutely right. So now Delver of Secrets. And I think you can say, well, it doesn't kill Dreadhorde Arcanist. It basically does.
Yeah, exactly. You now have a red and 1 mana 0/2, excuse me.
That means it can flashback Force of Will, right?
You know what? No.
Flavor Judge. I think Flavor Judge approves. That's not exactly how that works. But Tarmogoyf is here. That one can block as Renin 6 rebuys another land for Noah. He's still trying to claw back into this game, but Brad having none of it, and he does have the removal spell. It's a copy of his one of Liliana's Triumph. So Noah sacrifices the Tarmogoyf. Renin 6 gets attacked down. Wasteland from Brad takes care of a mana. And
it is so hard to imagine Noah getting back into this game. He just doesn't have the card advantage engines to effectively come back from this. It's very hard for him to play from behind.
Well, I mean, considering how many turns he had to skip due to mana issues early on, Noah has really put up a good fight here. He's kind of playing to lines where, I guess what you call hope magic. Where, right? So you make a play where you say, I hope
if they have nothing.
Yeah, you hope that something is true. And then you play as though it were true, and if it is, things will work out, and if it isn't, you lose.
Exactly. Those are so frequently the lines you have to take where you go, well, the only game I can actually win is one in which X or Y happens, so let's play as if that is going to happen.
Maybe, and I think Noah's hope magic would be something along the lines of, Brad has kept a hand of Astrolabes, Strixes, and Wastelands, and he just drew a couple more creatures.
Yep.
And maybe he just has some lands and creatures, and I can defend this Renin 6. Maybe work my way up to a Dreadhorde Arcanist, buy back some cantrips, and win. It could happen.
Yeah, and now this Renin 6 is just looping Wasteland.
Yeah, and remember, Noah's deck does not play basics.
Yeah, this is... Oof.
And, yeah, we should see him picking up the cards soon here. If he can't answer the Renin 6,
is that
then he's not going to keep
all of his
lands.
tropical islands in the graveyard?
Oh. Yes. Well, then.
Even if he finds fetch lands, there comes a point where you just run out of things to get with them. He does have a good number of fetches at a glance here.
Yeah, so Noah has 8 fetches, all blue. So there's a traditional Delver mana base, 3 tropical islands, 3 volcanic islands, 4 wasteland. He actually has 1 copy of Fiery Islet. That is the Horizon land from Modern Horizons, the red-blue one that draws a card. And we do see the cards get picked up here. So Brad Bonin takes game 1 here on Legacy. Other game 1s, Brad's teammate Jonathan Blank takes 1 game 1 in the Hogak Mirror. Dylan Donegan, Noah's teammate, takes 1 in Standard. So a split there from their teammates.
Okay, sure. I mean, that's basically exactly where Bonin wants to be. This is going to favor him as long as he stays up a game, because ultimately it's in a team event, you just want to win between 4 and 5 games.
Well, especially important with Noah being down a game is that this means if Noah wins the match, Noah's going to have to win a game on the draw.
Right, and that is just going to be so hard for him. Bonin being able to break serve on the back of that, honestly, back-breaking Wasteland a moment ago was just so huge.
Bold play on Brad's side. I did like it. I mean, the payoff was huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And without Walker having any kind of threat on the battlefield, it was exactly the kind of game that these control decks want to play.
So Star City Games, we have our weekly sale on the shop on our website. A different item on sale every week. This week we've been having huge discounts on Magic supplies, sleeves, deck boxes, playmats. You can pick some of these up. Make sure to check in today because the sale flips over tomorrow morning. StarCityGames.com/sale. Emma, what is your sleeve of choice?
All right, so Dragon Shield has these art series sleeves, and there's one called Poppy Fields. It's a parody of a Monet painting that I absolutely love.
So you do art. You do sleeves with art on them.
I'll do Dragon Shields with art on them, and I like the Ultimate Guard art sleeves as well. But that's about it. I don't want to drag any specific brands, but there are some other ones that are a little more suspect for a longer tournament. What about you?
So I double sleeve because it depends what deck I'm playing. Single sleeve normally, but one of my decks are foiled out, then I'll double sleeve them because you have to, otherwise the foils bend.
Do you have a preference on inner sleeves?
I like them when they top load, not side load.
All right, smart. Those are not good for your cards.
The side loaders?
Use those.
Yeah.
I got some after buying a lot of Magic cards, I have some strong opinions on side loaders not being great.
So the sleeves, I think what I do is my style is I like shameless plug. I like the Ultimate Guards for my single sleeve decks. Sure. I do like Dragon Shields for my double sleeve decks.
Yes, that is almost exactly where I fall on it.
But actually, if it's not foil, I only single sleeve. I actually find I don't have large hands, so if I go for the double sleeve decks, shuffling gets to become an issue.
Oh yeah, that's the problem with the art sleeves I like is they're smooth back. So the first couple times I shuffle them, it is a disaster.
Yeah, there's nothing like shuffling a deck and then you just spill the deck, the cards onto the table in front of your opponent while you're shuffling.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely, I will put the deck down and it's wobbling and I tell my opponent it's double sleeved and they just say only double. It is a nightmare.
Yeah. So when I double sleeve them, I use mattes instead of glossies to try to make it easier to shuffle.
Yeah, I just like I like Poppy too much. I don't know.
No, I agree. I like the look of the art ones when they're double sleeved and glossed. I'm going to throw the cards on the floor. Look, it's too much. Maybe that's the price you pay for awesome sleeves, and I get it.
The price of beauty. What can I say?
Fashion isn't always functional.
Yeah, exactly. I really like the Dragon Shield smokes. I think they make, especially if you have any white border cards, they really make those pop.
Those are the perfect fits, and you see those for double-sided cards.
Yes, exactly. They're fantastic for those.
So going to sideboards, I do want to start here by looking at Noah Walker's deck. So he's as he dropped game one. This is a good matchup for him, or bad matchup for him, so he's going to have to address it out of the sideboard. And are there things specifically you like here? One of the worries I have is if he goes big toward cards like Jace the Mind Sculptor, he's playing Brad's game, and one Jace out of the sideboard isn't going to beat 3 Jaces in the main.
So a lot of what we're going to be seeing out of Walker's side of things is maybe bringing in this Jace because we saw how bad Wasteland was in that last game for Walker. So there may be a case to having access to one of these effects when you have Ponder and Preordain and Brainstorm and the ability to find them if you end up in that style of game, or if you just end up with a bunch of lands in your hand with something like Wrenn and 6 and you're expecting the games to go long. Just having ways to turn that cardboard into spells is particularly attractive. So I could see him moving towards that. Red Elemental Blast is going to be incredible against anything from True Name Nemesis to Baleful Strix to Jace the Mind Sculptor as a 1-mana tempo play. It also gives him a little bit more use out of his Volcanic Islands. We saw Bonin attacking specifically Trop most of the time last game.
Does Noah use Hydroblast to try to answer Wrenn and 6, or is that too narrow?
Honestly, it's something that I think we could end up seeing come in because it also is able to go after Bonin's Pyroblasts.
Sure, and you know that Bonin will have 2 to 3 of that effect.
Right, and if you were to see something like Kolaghan's Command come in, then that's another card that it has the option of tagging.
Kolaghan's Command actually a 2 of in the main for Brad Bonin today.
Right.
Believe those are the only red cards in the main, the 2 commands and the 3 Wrenn and 6. As you mentioned out of the board, you're right, 2 Pyroblasts and 1 Red Elemental Blast. He is up to 3. And again, we see Brad starting on basic lands. It really does feel unfair that this 4-color good stuff deck gets to run on basics now.
Yeah, this is very excited to just see a lot of snow-covered lands all the time.
Well, this is used to be how Miracles would combat Delver, right? It's best the best thing about Miracles is that it could go basic island, basic plains, basic island.
Yeah, and then you play back to basics or something and hope that you're able to get away with it.
Oh, I hope we get to the point where decks like Brad's play back to basics. That would just be the rudest.
Oh my gosh.
4-color back to basics.
Stop.
Renin 6 from Noah resolves, and then is going to get hit by a blue blast. It did get back a land first, though, so still a 2-for-1 for Noah.
Yeah, and this is a matchup where having some, even just whether that land is a mana source or just a physical piece of cardboard for something like Brainstorm, you're going to be able to get value out of that land. That's why we see Renin 6 rising in popularity in Legacy.
There's a Wasteland in Noah's hand. That's cute.
I'm sure
so gross.
He'll get to put that back with a Brainstorm someday and feel very good about it.
He'll resign himself to shuffling it away.
Oof.
Yeah.
Speaking of...
Brainstorm. All right. Plenty of stuff to get rid of. Draws into Dreadhorde Arcanist. The sideboard Jace the Mind Sculptor. He finds a second Wasteland.
Well, easy 2 cards to put back.
Because these don't do anything today.
As a matter of fact, I don't want these.
Now for threats. Delver decks. Traditionally, we'd see things like... So no 1-drops here other than Delver of Secrets. No Nimble Mongoose or Elvish Reclaimer.
Ooh, it's the secret mode of Wasteland.
Here we go. Oh, the colorless mana. Dreadhorde Arcanist is the play. Brad has Fatal Push at the ready. And Noah is thinking about fighting.
Or he's posturing as if he can fight.
Yeah, I suppose it's because Days in the format, a 3-second pause there is really just appropriate.
Right, and the nice thing about Wasteland here is it does allow him to cast that Jace the Mind Sculptor this turn if he wants.
Baleful Strix from Brad. No, draws the card, but no land drop.
Ooh, that means he has a ton of gas in his hand.
I suppose Jace Brainstorm here is fine.
Ooh, it is definitely strong.
Does Noah have the land? We believed he had another Wasteland in there.
Right, he just sacrificed a Misty Rainforest and is likely just thinking about which land he wants because whichever one he gets, he runs the risk of losing the other land to a Wasteland.
Sure, so you want to get whichever color is the most important.
Exactly.
Decides that is green mana here. Gets Tropical Island. And Jace the Mind Sculptor from Noah makes a board for it, and he goes straight for the Fate Seal.
It. Oh, I love this play.
You trying to just keep Brad off land?
Yes. So there are a lot of things, especially when Brad is on a blue mana and a black mana, that just can't even be cast. These are, Renin 6, any of the bigger spells.
Red Blasts.
Right, exactly. These are the things that he's looking at trying to keep off the battlefield.
Brad draws Baleful Strix, casts it. Card, still no land, back to Noah.
Untapping with a Jace is just such a commanding position in Legacy, especially when Noah's the deck that's good at playing from ahead. So when it has a mana advantage and a battlefield advantage, this is just so big.
Some glimmer here for Brad. You said mana advantage. Noah definitely has that. Battlefield advantage, I don't think Noah actually has it yet. Now, he has ways to get it. But I think the last box Noah has to check is he actually needs to get this battlefield.
So that one's a little bit tougher. So the other way to think of it is Bonin having a pair of 1/1s more powerful than Noah getting, say, 3 Brainstorms in the time that it takes for them to take down this Jace? And I think there's a pretty strong argument for Jace being the winner there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely right. We see, because this is what will happen. Jace will find a way to stabilize. As we see, Renin 6 was found off Jace. Renin 6 shoots down a Strix. Fiery Islet makes Dreadhorde Arcanist. And here we go. 2 Planeswalkers, a Brainstorm in the yard, ready to go.
Close game, everybody.
Ponder from Brad. Now, Noah's going to have to win here because on the Modern table, we have a match result. 2-0. Jonathan Blank is the winner.
Ooh, and Bonin's out from under this mana problem he's been suffering from. Well, maybe not completely out from under it, but he now actually has access to casting things like Red Elemental Blast to try and catch back up in this game.
Yeah, it's a Ponder from Brad. Fatal Push on the Arcanist. He's fighting back. I almost still felt like I wanted to see a Red Blast there from Brad to really continue on here.
Right, and as soon as you see the Strix attacking the Jace the Mind Sculptor, you could almost feel the sigh of relief from Noah.
And look at this power move. Wasteland on your fetch.
Yep, and now this Renin 6 has the option of rolling up to get
another Wasteland?
This Wasteland if he fetches something that could cast, say, a Red Elemental Blast.
Yeah, so by that move, I love it from Noah, he forced Brad to fetch another basic.
Exactly. This just creates a position where you force your opponent to make the play that you want them to make.
That was really nice on Noah's side. And you saw just the speed with which he went for it, too.
Oh, he knows. If there's someone who knows the lines in Legacy, it is Noah Walker.
Renin 6 going to get back a fetch land. Jace will Brainstorm. Might just put that fetch land away. Or use it to shuffle after its Brainstorm,
Things are going to disappear one way or another.
And that's where that Renin 6 Plus doesn't just draw a land, it draws a card because of Jace.
Right, and there are specifically things that Walker wants to get rid of out of his hand because he had the option of cracking Fiery Islet and rebuying it if he was just completely out of gas.
2 Tarmogoyfs and a Wasteland from Noah.
Anybody's game.
Planeswalker, instant, creature, land, sorcery. They are 5/6s. And actually, it looks like we have 6/7 was the play, is the size on them. Tarmogoyf's down. Right, Artifact, a Baleful Strix is in the yard.
Ooh.
Yep, that is 6/7. That's 12 power of Tarmogoyfs. Shrunk down to just 6. There's a Liliana's Triumph from Brad, but that is just fine.
Ooh, it feels so bad to hold back this Baleful Strix when there's a Renin 6 sitting there.
Yeah. Yes, this will block Tarmogoyf. I'm sure that's what will happen.
Ooh.
And surprise ending, that is not going to happen. Renin 6 shoots down the blocker, attack in for 6. Brad going to drop from 18 to 12. A Fate Seal from Noah.
You've got to feel like that's the writing on the wall. Is when the Temur Delver deck has 5 cards in hand, fetch and play, and goes, you know what? I'll actually just check the top of your library.
Yeah, I have what I need here. Just make sure that...
Oh, and then leaving on top.
Oh, yeah. That's what I always leave on top with Fate Seal.
This is the sleeper hold. This is what we're seeing here. This game might not literally have concluded, but it is effectively over.
Top card was Plague Engineer. Snapcaster Mage from Brad. Does Noah care?
I believe there's a Fatal Push in Graveyard, so this does give a way to get Tarmogoyf off the battlefield, but...
And that works. All right. True Name Nemesis still in hand from Noah. Renin 6. Buys back Wasteland. Jace Brainstorms.
The Renin 6 could have just killed Snapcaster Mage for free, chose not to.
Right. See, Noah here on the left, teammate Oliver Tomajko looking on. His match is done. And that's Tarmogoyf number 3 from Noah.
If you are the active player, please finish that turn. The 2 of you will then have 5
Astrolabe from Brad. This will unlock his other 2 colors of mana.
Okay.
Draws into Fatal Push.
So this is one of the ways that Bonin can claw back into this game. If he can just check these card advantage engines from Noah, then it is possible, since he has so many card advantage engines of his own, that he finds a way back in this game.
Yep, now that he has green mana, Abrupt Decay will take care of Renin 6. Noah motioning over here to teammate. Looks like he has some plans in mind. Maybe bolt down this Snapcaster Mage, free up an attack.
Right. If this Tarmogoyf gets through 2 attacks, that's all it takes. The game is over.
Yeah, there's a Lightning Bolt on top. Seems to be where Noah is looking.
If Noah can find a second bolt, he only needs to unsummon with Jace.
Yeah, that'd actually just be lethal.
Right.
Attacks him with Tarmogoyf. He gets the chump block.
Oh, that's kind of like a Planeswalker activation.
Yeah. Brad definitely respecting Lightning Bolts here. And a Brainstorm from Noah. Now he has 2 Lightning Bolts in hand.
Steady.
Yeah, just needs to get to that 12. And I think that's why we see him keeping things like Plague Engineer. If Brad taps out for Plague Engineer, you mentioned the wins on the table.
Exactly.
And actually, True Name Nemesis from Noah, I think he's trying to bait out the Plague Engineer.
We call this the Rift Bolt.
There you see, right? This is great on Noah's side. And he actually just has the days for the Plague Engineer. Can do it that way.
Ooh.
Attack here for 6, Bolt makes 12, and that should send them to a 3rd game. 6, 9, and 12. Players are picking up to go to game 3. So a pair of game 3s to decide things. While Noah and Brad shuffle up, we are going to move over to the Bant Ramp mirror on the standard table between Kevin Jones and Dylan Donegan.
Right. This 3rd game, Noah's going to have to win on the draw. But for that to even happen, Donegan needs to win this game to force a 3rd game on that last table.
Donegan is going to get to be on the play for this one. Kevin had evened things up in game number 2. So Bant Ramp, this is mentioned before, not the Scape Shift deck. What players are ramping out to here, and these are actually near identical lists in the main, but Dylan gets some advantage out of the sideboard. They ramp to Nissa, Who Shakes the World, Voracious Hydra, Tristani Discordant, and Hydroid Krasis. Now out of the sideboard, they both get to ramp to Tolsimir, Friend to Wolves as well.
That one's a little shaky in the matchup, but it does let you actually try to pressure things. Just having 2 bodies on the battlefield can be quite good here. A lot of times the fight is going to come down to things like time wipe, being able to completely just nail somebody out of a game.
Well, an interesting one here on Dylan's side, it looked like it could have been a runaway game as he started with Llanowar Elves and Leafkin Druid on the play, but it looks like he's stuck on 2 lands. Now, he can't cast a payoff spell yet, but what he can do is Prison Realm away Kevin's ramp.
And then he's scryed to the top.
It's a land.
Right. That's what we can assume from this point. Is it is a land, it's a way to find another land. There is something happening next turn.
Well, we'll see if there's a Dovin's Veto or a Negate. I think Nissa, Who Shakes the World would be the play if you had it. And actually, Risen Reef, which is safer into open mana.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the kind of thing where Donegan thought, well, it's unlikely he does anything on 3 mana. So if you just want to land anyway and the next card is going to be a land, then this Risen Reef puts it into play for free. Just get the free card advantage engine online.
Elves swings, so there will be 6 mana for next turn from Dylan. He has 3 creatures in play. Leafkin Druid is almost set to tap for 2. This is a huge mana advantage. It's 6 or 7 on Dylan's side to 3 on Kevin's.
Right, and in a ramp mirror, that's the name of the game.
Yeah. Kevin going to try to keep pace. Here's Risen Reef of his own, but his doesn't ramp. His just draws a card, plays Breeding Pool, says go. Second Risen Reef in hand. Given time, Kevin can catch up.
Yeah, right now, Donegan needs to find something to actually do with his mana.
So we see Teferi, Time Raveler in hand. Looks like he has a Voracious Hydra.
Oh,
and
is
a pair
that
of
another
lands.
Risen Reef for...
Oh, it is.
Ooh. All right, we might just see both players just go bananas here. Casting that other Risen Reef is going to make the Leafkin Druid tap for 2.
Right, so you cast a Risen Reef if you have it. Noah would have 4 mana, 5 with a land drop. I think they're debating, does he want to Voracious Hydra and attack down the Kevin's Risen Reef?
That has merit. The nice thing about developing Voracious Hydra is you actually have something that can pressure something like a Nissa coming back on the other side.
Voracious Hydra, going to eat the Risen Reef. And I think, yeah,
this is nice. Being able to attack a Nissa is strong.
yeah, and Dylan decides to do this, going to delay his own Risen Reef because he wants a larger Hydra.
Yes, and this also has the benefit of making your Teferi able to get a ton of value out of its own minus ability if you just return your own fight creature to your hand.
Back to Kevin. They're just keeping the board clear. Deputy of Detention from Kevin Jones. The Hydra is gone. But Kevin, no land drop either.
Ooh.
5
Donegan
cards,
needs
yeah.
to find something to do with this mana advantage.
Well, Risen Reef's going to try to find something for him. So top card is a Sun Petal Grove. Gets to Risen Reef again. It's a forest. I mean, all the mana he could want. But does he have something to do with it?
There's a kingdom for a Hydroid Crisis.
Please find your way to your seat.
Yeah, I think he just passes.
Wow.
And that's the window Kevin needs.
All right, what are you going to do with it? Him missing on that land drop says that he likely has some sort of action in his hand.
And I like Kevin's read of the situation. Notices that Dylan is looking for cards. So he uses Voracious Hydra to eat down a Risen Reef that will take away Dylan's card drawing ability. Yeah, there's nothing like mass manipulation that the players ramp into at this point. I think Hydroid Crisis really is the top deck that they both want.
Right, that's the thing that would just break things open and go from a fairly anemic hand to I have a bunch of mana and now I also have a bunch of things to sink that mana into.
Aether Gust, the pickup from Dylan this turn. So he has Teferi, Aether Gust, Deputy of Detention. Nothing really to Deputy here.
He could Teferi and bounce his own Prison Realm if he thinks that Kevin just is kind of online at this point.
Teferi could bounce his own Risen Reef. And I think he's going to go a line like that. He bounces his own Leafkin Druid.
Similar play, just cheaper to recast.
Yeah. Better version of the same idea. And draws Hydroid Crisis.
All right, he just wants another
Yeah.
turn to be able to play this, and he will get to draw so many cards.
Yeah. That was the top deck he was looking for. Shocks a Hallowed Fountain into play. Question is, and says go. Right, that's his blue
Just
mana
holding
for
up
Aether
Aether
Gust.
Gust,
There we
right.
go. So far, so good for Donegan.
I would like to welcome.
And Kevin, for the last 2 turns, has missed his land drops. He casts Leafkin Druid and another Leafkin Druid and says go.
Okay.
4 creatures.
If he gets to untap with all of this, then he could be in great shape, but missing a land drop, there's a lot of temptation for Dylan to just Deputy of Detention these Leafkin Druids.
I think so, and that's why you're going to see Risen Reef from Dylan rather than the Crisis, because he wants to Deputy the Leafkin Druid.
Oh, I love this play. He's not putting a breeding pool into play with Risen Reef, so he can just shock it into play untapped.
Right, because he needs the blue mana source.
Right.
He drew, it looks like another Risen Reef. Now, I was thinking about if he wants to cast it. Probably too risky.
You're probably okay with him all getting Deputy of Detention, because then if you deal with the Deputy, you get 9 Risen Reef triggers. That's a situation where you just beg Kevin to do it. I'll work it out. Please just give me the chance to do this.
The decision here on Dylan's side is the fact that he has limited amounts of blue mana. So Deputy of Detention takes care of Kevin's Leafkin Druids. Shocks Breeding Pool into play. He can either hold up Aether Gust or cast Risen Reef.
This is so safe.
And casts, he holds up Gust.
This is just so much
Yeah.
respect for a Nissa. Or a Talsamir.
Reef from Kevin. Does Dylan want to Aether Gust it? He does.
There's a point where you just don't, you want to get out from under having to hold up all of this mana.
I'm actually interested to see here as Dylan draws whether he goes for a Krasis. Yeah, I was going to say a Krasis or a Risen Reef. Now, with Nissa mana available, 1, 2, 3, let's tap 4, 5. The Sun Petal Groves. Note he didn't tap the Forests, and there's a good reason for that.
It is time.
It's time to draw all the cards. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, Kevin's like, that's too much. He extends
all right,
the hand.
whatever. Off it.
Dylan Donegan is your winner 2-1. He does his part, which now leaves it to Noah Walker.
Good grief.
I mentioned this was going to be the most difficult game for their team. Noah winning one on the draw against Brad Bonin.
And that's one of the drawbacks that what we just saw there of these ramp strategies is you just relative to how much mana you need, you don't actually play that many lands. 24 isn't that many for a deck that wants 6, 7, 8 mana. And we saw Dylan just able to answer Jones's mana dorks, and that was enough.
Delver of Secrets, turn 1 from Noah. Trying to fade a turn 2 Renin 6. He will, but he gets hit by Wasteland. Gonna pass back. Delver transforms off Preordain. This is an exchange that Noah's pretty happy with.
Yeah, Bonin didn't have an answer to this Delver of Secrets at all.
And now he's taking 3.
Absolutely. Now Renin 6 doesn't kill it either. Plague Engineer doesn't kill it. This is big that this Delver was able to transform.
Yeah, the 4-color control deck is not great at killing Insectile Aberration. It has 3 copies of Fatal Push, 2 copies of Kolaghan's Command, and 3 copies of Baleful Strix as ways to interact here.
Right. There might be Liliana's Triumph or something to that effect, but you really want to be trying to save a lot of those cards for things like True Name Nemesis or Tormagoyf.
So Bonin takes the hit. Noah preordains. Four-color control, not a lightning bolt deck. Now here is that one Liliana's Triumph. You called it. Bonin's going to fetch down to 16. Does it work? Is there a daze? It looks like it does.
This is the spot where Noah just has to kind of evaluate what he actually wants to fight over, and something like Renin 6 or Dreadhorde Arcanist is going to be more powerful in a long game than Delver will be.
So you think Noah, as you see, he makes, because he has Renin 6 here, you're not convinced that Noah doesn't have daze?
Exactly, because if we saw Bonin cast, say, a Force of Will or something to that effect here, we want to see, Walker wants to be able to protect this Renin 6, because it is more likely to run away with the game than a 3-2 with flying.
Yeah, now there's pressure on Brad to have a blue Elemental Blast. Brainstorm is where he'll start. No Wasteland in the graveyard. I guess no non-basics on Brad's side. So Renin 6 is just buying back fetch lands for the time being.
And that's just fine. We saw that Walker was able to really utilize a mana advantage on the back of some of his card advantage engines last game with things like Jace the Mind Sculptor, just playing a bunch of creatures out. There's even a Fiery Islet in the deck if he's able to find it.
I want to see Fiery Islet with Renin 6. That is a nice one.
Oh, it is. +1 draw a card on my 2-mana Planeswalker. As a matter of fact, I would love to.
Right now, the teammates are deciding which cards to place back on Brainstorm. Don't have a clean answer yet to Renin 6. And Brad is just going to send the turn, so Noah gets to keep his Planeswalker.
This is so good for anyone with a Planeswalker. Just getting to untap, you know you're going to get some more value out of this permanent.
The value will come in the form of Tropical Island.
It's likely a Brainstorm coming up after this, if that's the case.
And that's exactly it.
Noah interested in just putting that copy of Tropical Island back in the deck, because that also increases the power of the fetch land he got back last turn.
Thanks to running 6, Noah is going to keep a 7-card hand here. The Planeswalker is able to draw him a card every turn. Just that will be the play for Noah. Has his fetch land up to reset after the brainstorm.
And this is a spot where, remember, Renin 6 has 3 abilities.
Right. At -7 is where the ultimate hits. So Brad does need to do something about this Planeswalker.
If both players just stare at each other and play this sort of game, eventually Walker will just have infinite lightning bolts. Not infinite lightning bolts, but likely enough lightning bolts to close the game from 14.
Renin 6, it's -7. You gain an emblem that gives all instants and sorceries in your graveyard retrace.
Have you ever thought about discarding a land and all your lands being brainstorms?
It's not bad. Arkham's Astrolabe from Brad. Paired with a dual land, his mana is online. And he's just going to send. No turn. So
Arkham's Astrolabe is not the kind of permanent that's going to match up very well against a Renin 6.
no. We see here
The first wasteland of the game.
the first non-basic Brad puts into play, and immediately Noah points a wasteland at it. There is a red elemental blast in Brad's hand, so he's going to float some red mana. Correct that. He's going to float some black mana and cast Assassin's Trophy on the Renin 6. No basic lands in Noah's deck, so this card a very clean answer.
In this case, it is a counterable Abrupt Decay almost.
Noah does have to shuffle here.
Getting a free shuffle off that brainstorm from earlier.
Right, there were still one card from the brainstorm left on the top of the deck.
Oh, well, how about that?
And another Renin 6 from Noah. Back to work it goes, buying back the brainstorm. Interestingly, Noah skipped his land drop there, despite the fact that we know he has land. He picked up the wasteland. So he wasted away the duel and then picked up the wasteland again.
Exactly.
That's me the strength here. Noah gets to continue to making land drops on Brad's side. His lands have stopped at 3.
It's always hard to say which is worse, whether cracking a fetch and just not doing anything with the mana is scarier, or playing a new threat is scarier.
Dreadhorde Arcanist. Second threat hits the table for Noah. That'll be met by Fatal Push.
This feels like the kind of exchange that would benefit Bonin, just because he wants to try and reduce both players' resources. But Renin 6 isn't actually playing that kind of game right now because of cards like Brainstorm.
See Hydroblast on Renin 6. Now Brad has played out Volcanic Island into a known wasteland. And looks like Noah's going to fight. Red Elemental Blast hits Hydroblast.
Oof. That's one of Bonin's only clean answers to Renin 6 that's left.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned that. His sideboard Hydroblast. There's 2 copies. That was one of the 2.
At this point, there are 2 Abrupt Decays and 1 more Hydroblast.
Ponder here from Noah Walker. That's going to be met by Red Elemental Blast.
And that's got to feel like a win for Walker because Ponder is a good card, right? You want your spells to resolve. You put them in your deck for a reason, but it's not a True Name Nemesis or a Jace or some other big back-breaking thing that you really want to resolve.
Yeah, the story of this game has been Ren in 6. It's moved up to 7. So, Emma, here's a question. So the Ren in 6 emblem is a -7, and it gives your spells retrace. Now, when I spells of retrace, I'd like to have lands in my hand. So the question is, does Noah go to 8 before making the emblem, or does he emblem right away?
It's going to vary a lot, but you can kind of assume if you get to untap with the Ren in 6, if you have any kind of protection for it, knock it up to 8. Do it. Go for the greed play because you're going to win the game if it happens.
Sure. We see Colligan's command by Brad. He's just trying to deal damage to that Planeswalker, and Noah says no, casting a Daze.
That looked like a shock discard as well, which
think
would
so.
just let you discard a land that you could rebuy with the Ren in 6.
Yeah, it was a shock. It was
Oh,
something
yeah.
about just trying to deal with this Planeswalker. And Noah has played this beautifully, as opposed to being a traditional aggro deck with Delver. It was just protect Ren in 6.
Yep, it's just a protect the queen strategy, which is ultimately what this deck wants to be.
So, makes the emblem, attacks with Tarmogoyf. We'll get a count. Planeswalker, instant, sorcery, land, creature, 5/6. Attacks in. Brad will go to 9.
And firing off this Ren in 6 emblem makes a ton of sense when it looks like Noah just has 4 or 5 lands in his hand.
Well, I mean, you look at Noah's graveyard right now. Any land he has can be a Red Elemental Blast, and he has a Lightning Bolt and another Lightning Bolt. So Brad's at 3, and how about another Lightning Bolt? That would put Brad at 0. I don't think a Red Blast does anything here, and it does not. So Noah Walker, the comeback is complete. He takes the game in 3. He wins the game on the draw. It was going to be the hardest one.
Wow.
He and Dylan Donegan both take some pivotal game 3s, and their team moves on to 9-2. For Brad Bonin, it is the 3rd loss in a row for his team. They are not out of it, but this will drop them in the standings, perhaps to out of the top 8.
Right, and the big thing that I kind of want to focus on that Noah was able to do that last game is he was able to pivot away from the Delver strategy rather than focusing on creatures, knowing that Brad was just so adequately prepared for Dreadhorde Arcanist and Delver of Secrets and so on. That first turn we saw him not fight over Delver of Secrets and then just slam a Ren in 6 that drew, 3 cards, 4 cards, then die, and then the next Ren in 6 just won the game. And he fought over it a little bit, but overall just ran away with things.
Yeah, the Daze was saved all the way until a turn 8 Colligan's command, which is some real patience.
Yeah, exactly. And we saw as soon as Dreadhorde Arcanist hit the battlefield, Fatal Push took it down. We saw that Colligan's command come down. Bonin had in spades ways to deal with this Delver of Secrets, and so Noah just let it die rather than fight over it. And I think that is the reason that he won that game.
So yesterday we started talking about SCGCon Winter. We now have the full schedule online. A lot of great events happening all weekend. We're going to run through some of them. And one of the biggest additions were some invites to the Players Tour that were announced. These are going to be one-day events. The winner of the event will qualify for the newly announced Magic the Gathering Players Tour on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 3 chances to qualify, and you do not need an invitation to the Invitational to play these. These are open to the public each day.
Yeah, this is incredibly exciting. Anybody can play in these. It's high-stakes Magic. You know, if you come down and play in one of the last-chance qualifiers on Thursday, don't quite get in, but still want something that matters, this is exactly that.
So full schedule is currently online, StarCityGames.com/SCGCon. So that is it for round number 11. Now we are going to go off air shortly here. We have some technical issues that we need to address, but we will still be casting the rest of the tournament, so it's going to say offline, but it's not offline for long. We will see you in a few with round number 12.
Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the Star City Games Team Constructed Open in Richmond, part of the SCG Tour, brought to you by Carnox Chairs and Ultimate Guard. I'm Nick Miller alongside legacy expert Brad Bonin. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Nick. How you doing?
Pretty good. You were very excited at the launch of Modern Horizons. A card, Arkham's Astrolabe, has just spurred this movement in Legacy to just try all kinds of stuff. You get to play a bunch of basic lands, and you get to do a bunch of other things. And the combination of Astrolabe and Wrenn and 6 has really changed the landscape of what Legacy looks like. And you, and working with people like Daryl Ayers and stuff like and people like that, have really shown what you can do in this format now.
Welcome back.